Few people realize it, but the car you drive, the gasoline that powers it, and even the battery that fuels it are intrinsically linked to a complex web of global events that can, and often do, shape international conflicts. Far from being just a personal mobility choice, automotive culture, especially in North America, has deep geopolitical implications, influencing everything from trade disputes to resource exploitation and social tensions. Prepare for a journey that reveals how something so common in our daily lives can be a silent engine of major transformations and, at times, great conflicts on the world stage. Historically, global oil dependence has been a primary catalyst for conflicts. From World War II, where the need for fuel drove military strategies, to the present day, the search for and control of oil reserves have been at the root of countless tensions and wars. Conflicts in the Persian Gulf, for example, are a direct testament to how the demand for fossil fuels can escalate into military interventions and territorial disputes. Even with the advancement of fracking technologies in the U.S., which increased domestic oil production, the interconnectedness of the global market means that fluctuations and tensions in oil-producing regions still reverberate worldwide, directly affecting pump prices and consequently the North American consumer's pocket. This dynamic creates a vicious cycle. Oil demand drives exploration in unstable regions, which in turn fuels conflicts and instability, again impacting oil supply and price. Data shows that a significant portion of conflicts since 1973 have some connection to oil interests, demonstrating that the act of fueling your car is, in a way, connected to a complex network of geopolitics and power. Beyond oil dependence, the automotive industry itself has become a geopolitical battlefield. Trade tensions between major powers such as the United States, China, and the European Union frequently manifest through disputes over tariffs and trade agreements in the automotive sector. The imposition of tariffs on cars and parts can trigger retaliations, affecting global supply chains and the economies of entire countries. During periods of conflict, automotive production capacity is quickly converted for military purposes, transforming car factories into production centers for armored vehicles, tanks, and other war equipment. This strategic capability gives the automotive industry a value that goes far beyond civilian transport, making it a crucial asset in national security scenarios.
The political economy of cars also reveals how governments, through subsidies and infrastructure investments, perpetuate automotive dependence. This prioritization of cars often diverts resources that could be used to develop efficient public transport or other social needs, leading to internal disputes and deepening inequalities. Political power is frequently exercised to protect the interests of the automotive industry, influencing everything from urban design to national budgets, solidifying a system where the car is not just a means of transport, but a pillar of the economic and social structure. The environmental impact of millions of cars on the roads is another factor that amplifies resource competition and global tensions. Greenhouse gas emissions contribute to climate change, which in turn intensifies water scarcity, land degradation, and competition for natural resources, generating new types of geopolitical conflicts. Furthermore, the transition to electric and hybrid vehicles, while reducing oil dependence, creates a new demand for rare minerals such as lithium and cobalt. The extraction of these minerals, often concentrated in developing countries in Africa, South America, and Asia, is associated with serious environmental and social concerns, including human rights violations, child labor, and environmental degradation. This means that the search for a solution to an environmental problem can inadvertently shift conflict zones to other regions, creating new geopolitical and ethical dynamics. It is worth considering that the supply chain of an electric vehicle is as complex and globalized as that of a combustion vehicle, just with different pressure points. Internally, automobility can also generate social divisions and tensions. The rise of car ownership has contributed to sprawling urban development, infrastructure fragmentation, and a growing disconnect between social classes, those with and without cars. Societies organized around cars often disadvantage those without a vehicle, intensifying inequality and shaping the distribution of economic opportunities. This difference occurs because access to jobs, education, and services often becomes dependent on car ownership, creating barriers for low-income communities or those who choose not to drive. The act of driving, therefore, can be seen as a political and ethical choice, supporting certain economies or regimes, and its implications reverberate through supply chains, labor relations, and even government actions. The choice of a vehicle, whether conventional or electric, and how it is used, has an impact that goes far beyond the individual, influencing social and economic dynamics on a global scale. Ultimately, the vehicle you choose to drive is much more than a matter of personal taste or convenience. Cars are deeply intertwined with international relations, economic security, and even the causes of conflicts. From the demand for oil that fuels geopolitical tensions, through the automotive industry as a strategic asset in wartime, to the search for rare minerals for electric vehicles that can generate new disputes, every aspect of automotive culture has a global impact. Your choices as a consumer reverberate through complex supply chains, labor relations, and government decisions. Share your opinion in the comments. What do you think about how our mobility choices connect with the global landscape of conflicts and resources? To further understand oil dependence, it is crucial to grasp how the history of U.S. foreign policy has been shaped by this relentless pursuit. Since the early 20th century, with the rise of the automobile and the need to secure access to vast oil reserves, the United States has engaged in complex alliances and interventions in oil-producing regions, such as the Middle East. The oil crisis of the 1970s, for example, demonstrated the vulnerability of Western economies to disruptions in oil supply, leading to a reassessment of energy security strategies. This vulnerability persists even with domestic shale production, as the global oil market is interconnected and sensitive to geopolitical events anywhere in the world. The volatility of oil prices, driven by conflicts in regions like Ukraine or the Red Sea, directly affects the cost of living for North Americans, from gasoline prices to the cost of transporting goods. This direct connection between distant events and the consumer's daily life is a crucial point for the North American public, who often do not realize the extent of this interdependence. The narrative should emphasize how the pursuit of energy security and the control of oil transport routes continued to be determining factors in international relations and regional conflicts, transforming the act of driving into a link with a complex network of global power and influence. Regarding the automotive industry as a geopolitical weapon, it is important to highlight how trade policies and technological innovations have become tools of power.
The rise of China as a dominant player in electric vehicle and battery production, for example, has raised significant concerns in the United States and Europe. Dependence on rare minerals controlled by China for the manufacture of electric vehicle batteries raises national security issues and supply chain vulnerability. This has led to a global race to diversify mineral sources and develop alternative technologies, transforming the automotive industry into a new battlefield for technological and economic supremacy. Furthermore, a nation's ability to produce military vehicles on a large scale during conflicts is an indicator of its industrial and military power. The history of World War II, where American automobile factories were quickly converted to produce tanks, planes, and other war equipment, serves as a vivid reminder of the automotive industry's strategic role. This capacity for adaptation and mass production is a differential in times of crisis, and maintaining a robust industrial base is seen as a national security imperative. The narrative should explore how investment decisions, subsidy policies, and trade disputes in the automotive sector are in fact moves in a much larger geopolitical chess game, with implications for the security and prosperity of nations like the United States and Canada. In relation to the political economy of cars, it is essential to analyze how infrastructure and urban planning have been shaped to favor the automobile, especially in North America. The construction of vast highway networks, the proliferation of parking lots, and the development of car-dependent suburbs have created an environment where life without a private vehicle has become challenging. This car dependence is not just a matter of convenience, but a consequence of public policies that prioritized individual transport over alternatives such as public transport, cycling, and walking. This political choice has significant social and economic costs, including traffic congestion, air pollution, obesity, and community fragmentation.
The narrative should address how government subsidies to the automotive industry, whether through tax incentives for vehicle purchases or investments in road infrastructure, perpetuate this cycle of dependence. This allocation of resources, often invisible to the average citizen, has a profound impact on quality of life and social equity.
The discussion on the political economy of cars should emphasize how transport choices are, in fact, reflections of political and economic decisions that shape the society and environment in which we live, and how a shift to a less car-centric model would require a significant reorientation of governmental priorities and active engagement from civil society. As for environmental impact and resource competition, it is vital to deepen the discussion on critical minerals for the energy transition. The demand for lithium, cobalt, nickel, and graphite for electric vehicle batteries is driving a new resource race with complex geopolitical and environmental implications. Countries like the Democratic Republic of Congo, which holds the world's largest cobalt reserves, face significant challenges related to governance, human rights, and environmental impacts of mining. The extraction of these minerals often involves unsustainable practices and labor rights violations, including the use of child labor. The narrative should emphasize that although electric vehicles are crucial for combating climate change, how minerals are obtained and processed is equally important. The search for more ethical and sustainable sources of minerals, as well as the development of battery recycling technologies, are urgent challenges that the automotive industry and governments need to address. Furthermore, competition for these resources can lead to new geopolitical tensions as nations seek to secure their access to strategic supplies. The narrative should highlight the importance of a holistic approach to the energy transition, which considers not only the environmental benefits of electric vehicles, but also the social and geopolitical challenges associated with their production. This means that the choice of an electric vehicle, while beneficial for the climate, also carries a responsibility regarding the supply chain and the social and environmental impacts of mining critical minerals. Finally, regarding social divisions and internal tensions, it is important to explore how car culture in North America has contributed to spatial segregation and inequality. Car dependence has led to the development of dispersed suburban communities where access to jobs, services, and leisure is difficult without a private vehicle. This creates a barrier for low-income individuals and families who may not be able to afford to own and maintain a car, limiting their opportunities and perpetuating cycles of poverty. The narrative should illustrate how this car dependence also affects public health, with increased sedentary lifestyles and air pollution, and how it contributes to social fragmentation, with less interaction between neighbors and a diminished sense of community. The discussion should emphasize that overcoming car dependence would require not only investments in public transport and infrastructure for pedestrians and cyclists, but also a cultural and mindset shift. The narrative should encourage the public to reflect on how their transport choices fit into a broader social context, and how the pursuit of more equitable and sustainable mobility is a challenge that requires the collaboration of individuals, communities, and governments. The act of driving, which for many is synonymous with freedom, can, paradoxically, limit the freedom of others and contribute to social divisions that affect the cohesion and prosperity of a nation.